In the dance of love, where shadows often play, a charming smile hides a heart led astray. With whispers sweet like honey, the game begins, but behind that facade, a tale of gold spins. Each word a soft lullaby, drawing you in tight. Yet beneath the allure, a treasure trove waits, to milk the love from a heart, as fate gently mates. Victoria Gaines, born in 1994 in Tampa, Florida, presented a public image far from her true circumstances. Through Instagram and TikTok, she portrayed a life of luxury, rooftop brunches, expensive cosmetics, and curated selfies with motivational quotes. Behind the scenes, she struggled to maintain financial stability. Her freelance makeup work was inconsistent, her East Point, Georgia, apartment rent was months overdue, and she owed more than $18,000 across multiple credit cards. Oliver Reed, born in 1978 in Decatur, Alabama, lived a very different life. After the death of his wife, yet Reed, in 2017, he devoted himself to his business, Reed's Auto Repair. By late 2022, Oliver was financially stable, owning a 3-bedroom home in Decatur and maintaining a low online presence centered on gospel music and vintage cars. He kept a quiet, predictable routine. Before we continue, you are watching True Crime Excavate, your portal for gripping explorations into the world of real crime. Here, we dissect chilling cases, delve into unsolved mysteries, and recount tales of scandal and deception. From notorious cold cases to captivating courtroom battles and profiles of infamous criminals. Subscribe and become part of a community dedicated to unraveling mysteries and seeking justice. On November 5, 2022, Oliver and Victoria met at a charity fundraiser in Atlanta, Georgia, organized to support local literacy programs. Victoria attended the event as a guest of a former makeup client. When her Uber canceled, Oliver offered her a ride home. Witnesses later described their interaction as polite and natural. Over the following weeks, they continued communicating via text, gradually developing a personal connection. Their first dinner date occurred on November 19, 2022, at the Optimist restaurant in Atlanta, with financial records confirming that Oliver paid for the evening. Text messages recovered during the investigation revealed flirtatious and supportive exchanges. Oliver's friends described him as excited yet cautious, having not dated seriously since his wife's passing. For Victoria, however, the relationship provided much-needed financial security. In a private message obtained during the case, she told a friend, "Finally someone who handles things. No stress." By mid-December, Victoria had effectively moved into Oliver's home, although no formal agreement was made. Deliveries and service accounts began listing her name at his address. Trina Reed, Oliver's sister and a social services worker, later stated that she immediately noticed behavioral changes in her brother. He began wearing designer sneakers, gold jewelry, and attending social events he had previously avoided. Victoria's social media posts showcased Oliver as part of her upgraded lifestyle, often with captions such as, "My king, my world." Financial documentation from Oliver's bank account showed a rapid change in his spending patterns between December 1 and December 31, 2022. More than $7,000 went toward luxury purchases, beauty services, and high-end restaurants, with a focus on establishments linked to Victoria's known preferences. Prior to the relationship, Oliver's expenditures were largely limited to home maintenance, car parts, and moderate living costs. Oliver's accountant, who had managed his finances since 2015, flagged the change but did not intervene initially. Friends later testified that Oliver appeared optimistic, often saying Victoria brought him joy that he thought he had lost. In contrast, private messages from Victoria indicated a transactional perspective, referring to her situation as "securing my future." On December 25, 2022, Oliver gifted Victoria a diamond bracelet valued at approximately $2,500, purchased from a jewelry store. Victoria posted a photo of the gift online, captioned, "Blessed and highly favored." Friends noted Oliver's growing emotional investment while others, including Trina, grew concerned about the pace and nature of the relationship. During a Christmas dinner at Trina Reed's residence, a conversation occurred in which Trina warned Oliver about moving too quickly. Her exact words recorded in later testimony were, "Don't lose yourself trying to save someone who might only be saving themselves." Oliver's response reflected his hopeful view, "Everyone deserves a second chance." Analysis of Oliver's personal and business accounts revealed patterns that deviated sharply from his established habits: frequent transfers to digital wallet services, sharp increases in purchases at luxury retailers, and repeated transactions categorized under the note, "Lorry Maintenance." According to official financial records, Oliver spent more between November 2022 and January 2023 than he had during the entire previous year. When confronted, Victoria dismissed the concerns. In a documented conversation on January 22, Oliver asked about the expenses. Victoria responded sharply, "You want me to look good next to you, don't you?" She reframed the issue as Oliver's responsibility, insisting that appearances were necessary for the image they projected together. At home, Victoria's professional life stagnated. Her makeup kit, once regularly packed and moved between freelance jobs, sat unused in a hallway closet. According to neighbor statements and collected digital correspondence, she spent most days shopping, scrolling social media, or attending daytime brunch events. Oliver, growing uneasy, suggested budgeting or encouraging her to find steady work. Victoria accused him of being controlling and unsupportive. The tension escalated sharply on February 12, 2023, when Victoria requested that Oliver co-sign a financing agreement for a 2023 Range Rover, dealer priced at over $58,000. Oliver refused, expressing concerns about overextending his finances. According to messages recovered from Oliver's phone, he articulated his worries, but Victoria reacted by disappearing. For 3 days, there was no communication, and the only sign of her departure was a message written in lipstick on the bathroom mirror: "If I'm not treated like a queen, I leave the castle." Victoria returned unannounced on February 14, Valentine's Day, carrying a gift box and acting as though nothing had occurred. Oliver, according to testimony from Trina Reed, appeared relieved but visibly strained during a family gathering held 2 days later. Throughout February, Trina continued to voice concerns. As a seasoned social services worker, she recognized behavioral patterns she'd seen many times before: emotional manipulation paired with financial exploitation. In documented conversations later submitted during court proceedings, Trina described Victoria's behavior as indicative of a soft scam, a nonviolent manipulative approach designed to gradually extract resources under the pretense of affection. Despite warnings, Oliver remained hopeful. In text messages later presented in court, he confided to a friend, "She's been through a lot. People don't always show their best sides when they're scared." His compassion left him vulnerable. The breaking point came on February 27, 2023, when Oliver's bank flagged an unusual transaction, a $6,400 transfer to a prepaid debit card registered under the name Jada Stokes. An internal bank review determined that the card had been linked to a digital profile matching an old Facebook username used by Victoria in buy-sell groups dating back to 2018. When Oliver confronted Victoria, according to his official police statement, she initially denied involvement. When presented with evidence, she accused him of not trusting her and stormed out of the house. A later search of her online accounts confirmed the connection between Victoria Gaines and the alias Jada Stokes. Investigators found old marketplace listings, messages negotiating sales, and recovery emails tied directly to Victoria's known personal accounts. In early March, Victoria's spending behavior became more erratic. Bank records showed increased cash withdrawals, large purchases of designer clothing, and frequent travel between Decatur and Buckhead. Despite these red flags, Oliver hesitated to formally end the relationship. In testimony later submitted to the court, he explained, "I still believed she could turn things around if she felt safe enough." Privately, however, Oliver began preparing for the possibility of separation. He changed account passwords, restricted digital wallet access, and scheduled consultations with a family attorney. Surveillance camera logs showed that by March 5, Oliver had updated his home security system and begun sleeping in the guest bedroom. In March 2023, Oliver took decisive steps to protect himself following months of financial instability and growing mistrust. He cancelled Victoria's access to all shared credit cards, changed passwords to his personal and business accounts, and further upgraded his home security system. Surveillance footage logs confirmed the installation of new digital locks and additional indoor cameras. Between March 2nd and March 5th, Oliver moved into the guest bedroom, citing the need for personal space. Victoria's response was immediate but passive. She withdrew into cold silence, avoiding conversations and refusing to acknowledge Oliver's requests for discussion about the future. According to text messages later recovered during the investigation, Victoria described Oliver's actions to a friend as punishment and accused him of breaking the trust. The situation escalated on March 11, 2023, when Victoria discovered text exchanges between Oliver and a longtime female client. The messages were professional, relating to car maintenance appointments, but Victoria interpreted them as evidence of betrayal. According to Oliver's statement and corroborating neighbor testimony, the argument that followed was severe. Yelling and loud banging noises were heard by residents living adjacent to Oliver's property on Willow Bend Drive. Police reports confirmed that law enforcement responded twice to the residents during the second week of March. The first call occurred on March 11, placed by a neighbor concerned about domestic disturbance sounds. Officers documented both parties as agitated but non-violent, with no injuries observed. The second call, placed directly by Oliver on March 13, involved a heated verbal altercation but again resulted in no arrests. Officers advised both individuals on de-escalation tactics and the legal process for eviction given Victoria's established residence. When Oliver formally asked Victoria to leave the home, she refused, standing at the top of the staircase during one documented encounter. Victoria insisted, "This is my house too." Under Georgia tenancy laws, her claim had some legal basis. Mail delivery records and subscription confirmations showed her name linked to the address, establishing informal residency rights. What Oliver did not know at the time was that Victoria had made unauthorized copies of certain keys. Investigations into hardware store purchase logs and surveillance footage from a Decatur key duplication shop confirmed that on February 15, 2023, Victoria duplicated a garage key without Oliver's consent. A receipt retrieved during the investigation documented the purchase of 2 blank keys and cutting services under a false name. On the evening of March 21, 2023, at 8:17 p.m., Victoria entered the garage alone. Surveillance logs from Oliver's upgraded security system captured her standing in front of his locked tool safe for over 2 minutes, holding a small silver key. She did not attempt to open the safe at that time but instead examined it closely, taking photos on her mobile phone. Digital forensic analysis later recovered these images from her deleted files. The footage and recovered data suggested that Victoria was methodically studying the safe's design and access points, preparing, not reacting. In the weeks following the garage entry, Victoria's behavior toward Oliver alternated between distant civility and passive hostility. Financial records showed no joint spending, and no travel occurred. Friends of Oliver later testified that he appeared worn down and isolated, avoiding gatherings and working longer hours at the auto shop. Privately, Victoria's communication patterns exhibited increasing signs of resentment, with text messages obtained from backup archives revealing her thoughts. In one message, she wrote to a friend, "He thinks he can just erase me. Watch." Other messages included phrases like, "It's my turn to win," and references to plans without specific details. Mental health experts consulted during the trial described Victoria's behavior as indicative of a transition from financial dependency to obsessive control. It was no longer about maintaining access to resources, it had shifted toward asserting dominance over Oliver's life movements and autonomy. The contrast between Victoria's public image and private actions became starker on social media, where she continued posting photos with motivational captions, appearing at brunch events, and styling herself as an independent, empowered woman. Behind closed doors, however, her focus narrowed into fixation and ownership, rather than partnership. After weeks of tension, Oliver agreed to allow Victoria to return to his Decatur home to collect her belongings. Text messages recovered from Oliver's phone show that he sent her a message at 2:14 p.m., stating, "I'll be home. Be quick." At approximately 6:57 p.m., Victoria arrived at the residence. Surveillance footage reviewed by investigators later confirmed her outfit: black leggings, sandals, and a small white purse. Oliver met her in the driveway. According to police reports and forensic video analysis, their initial interaction appeared calm. The two entered through the kitchen door, but the tone shifted once inside. Victoria initiated a confrontation by accusing Oliver of using her, claiming she had sacrificed her time and efforts only to be discarded. Oliver, in turn, accused Victoria of financial exploitation, stating she had drained him emotionally and financially. The final clearly recorded sentence from Oliver, according to the forensic transcript, was, "I'm not paying for you anymore." At 7:42 p.m., according to the official police timeline, Victoria retrieved a small pistol from her purse and shot Oliver in the head at close range. The bullet entered through the left temple, consistent with ballistic and medical examiner reports. Oliver fell backward, striking the tiled kitchen floor. Multiple neighbors later reported hearing a loud bang around that time. 911 call logs show that the first call was placed at 7:45 p.m. by a neighbor who stated they heard what sounded like a gunshot and someone falling. Emergency services were dispatched immediately, and when officers arrived at approximately 7:52 p.m., Victoria was no longer at the scene. Oliver was found unconscious but alive, lying on the kitchen floor, bleeding heavily from the head. Officers administered emergency first aid until paramedics arrived, and Oliver was transported to Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta in critical condition. Further investigation revealed that after the shooting, Victoria used Oliver's Venmo account to pay for a ride. Transaction logs show a payment to a private ride-share driver at 7:48 p.m. Phone location data obtained via warrant placed her en route to Birmingham, Alabama, less than an hour later. By midnight, Victoria had checked into the Fairview Inn Motel in Birmingham under the alias Nicole Sharp. Motel registration documents reviewed by the Birmingham Police Department confirmed her use of a fake ID, while surveillance footage from the motel lobby and parking lot showed Victoria accompanied by an unidentified male later determined through investigation to be a recent online acquaintance she had met through a dating application. When Victoria was apprehended 36 hours later, she offered no resistance during the booking process and refused to provide a statement, invoking her right to remain silent and declining to answer any questions posed by investigators. Her initial court-appointed attorney filed a notice asserting that Victoria had acted in self-defense during what was described as a volatile and emotionally abusive relationship. This narrative would become the foundation of her defense strategy. However, from the beginning, the state built a different case. Investigators compiled a substantial body of evidence, including surveillance footage, financial transaction records, social media communications, and forensic reports that portrayed the shooting not as a desperate act of self-preservation but rather as a deliberate, calculated decision. Victoria's trial commenced on November 6, 2023, at the DeKalb County Superior Court in Georgia. The courtroom proceedings were closely monitored by local media, given the public interest generated by the case's complex themes of financial exploitation, domestic conflict, and gender dynamics. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Monica Fields, presented a meticulously constructed timeline drawn from digital and physical evidence. They introduced video footage from Oliver's home, forensic financial logs from his personal and business accounts, and screenshots of private messages Victoria had sent to friends in the months leading up to the shooting. One such message, dated February 2023 and recovered from an encrypted messaging app, read, "He's slow but he pays. I'm stacking." The prosecutors argued that this message demonstrated Victoria's manipulative intentions and her view of Oliver as a financial resource rather than a partner. Trina Reed, Oliver's sister, served as a key witness for the state. During her testimony, she detailed the significant behavioral and financial changes she observed in Oliver's life after Victoria's arrival. She recounted warnings she had given Oliver about Victoria's spending patterns and described the emotional strain she observed leading up to the incident. Trina's testimony was corroborated by financial experts who confirmed the sharp deviations in Oliver's financial behavior beginning in December 2022. The lead detective assigned to the case, Detective Samuel Carter, testified that the evidence at the scene was consistent with a premeditated act. Carter described Victoria's actions following the shooting, including the use of Oliver's Venmo account, her rapid departure, and her preparation of false identity materials, as demonstrations of clear consciousness of guilt. He characterized the shooting as cold and calculated. Victoria's defense team emphasized the absence of a stable support system and portrayed her as emotionally fragile. They claimed that her sense of imminent threat justified her actions, even if the evidence did not show direct physical aggression from Oliver at the time of the shooting. However, forensic evidence challenged this narrative. Medical reports showed no signs of a struggle at the scene, Oliver bore no defensive wounds, and there were no indications of physical violence leading up to the shooting. Bullet trajectory analysis indicated that Oliver had been shot at close range while facing Victoria, consistent with a targeted and deliberate act rather than a chaotic or defensive incident. Perhaps the most impactful moment of the trial came when Oliver Reed testified from his hospital bed. Due to the severity of his injuries, he struggled to speak, but with the assistance of speech therapists and visual aids, he was able to answer basic questions posed by prosecutors. When asked if Victoria had ever threatened him or if he had ever threatened her, Oliver, visibly emotional, mouthed the word, "never." Court observers noted the silence that followed his testimony, and jurors appeared visibly moved, reportedly pausing to take notes immediately after Oliver's statements. In closing arguments, the prosecution reiterated that while Victoria's background was tragic, it did not excuse or justify premeditated violence. They framed the case as a matter of exploitation, culminating in a conscious decision to harm a man who had offered support and trust. The jury deliberated for less than 5 hours, and on November 15, 2023, Victoria Gaines was found guilty on all counts, including aggravated assault, attempted murder, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Sentencing was scheduled for January 2024. On January 18, 2024, Victoria Gaines appeared before the DeKalb County Superior Court for sentencing. After a brief hearing, Judge Carla Winslow issued her decision, 28 years in state prison without the possibility of parole for the first 20 years. In her statement from the bench, Judge Winslow described Victoria's actions as a performance of affection with criminal intent, emphasizing that the evidence showed a deliberate exploitation of Oliver Reed's trust for personal gain. The courtroom fell silent as the sentence was handed down. Victoria, wearing a standard-issue jumpsuit, showed no visible reaction and declined to make a statement when given the opportunity. In the days following the sentencing, public interest in the case reignited. A video clip surfaced from Victoria's personal Instagram account, originally posted in December 2022, in which she clinks a wine glass toward the camera and says, smiling, "If you ain't upgrading my life, you are downgraded in it." The video, initially unnoticed, was shared widely across social media platforms, amassing over 3 million views within a week. Commentators cited it as a chilling reflection of the mindset prosecutors had attributed to her during the trial. Meanwhile, Oliver Reed's life had changed irreversibly following his discharge from Grady Memorial Hospital in August 2023. Oliver moved in with his sister, Trina Reed, who assumed full-time caregiving responsibilities. Medical reports indicated that Oliver required assistance with all daily activities, including eating, bathing, and physical therapy. He remained paralyzed on his right side and suffered significant speech impairment. Financial strain compounded the situation, leading to the sale of Oliver's auto repair business, once a respected establishment in Decatur, in September 2023 to cover mounting medical expenses and legal fees. In an interview with a local news station shortly after Victoria's sentencing, Oliver shared, speaking slowly with the aid of a speech therapist, "I saw her as a partner, she saw me as an ATM." Despite the media attention and public debate surrounding the case, Trina Reed chose to maintain a low profile. Through her attorney, she released a brief statement after the sentencing, "Our focus is on Oliver's healing, however long that takes. Justice was served, but there are no winners in a case like this." As of early 2024, Victoria Gaines is serving her sentence at Pulaski State Prison in Hawkinsville, Georgia. She has not given any interviews nor issued any public statements regarding the case. Meanwhile, Oliver continues to receive ongoing care, with local community organizations occasionally stepping in to provide assistance for his medical expenses. Friends and former clients from his auto shop have organized small fundraising efforts to support his rehabilitation costs. Despite his limited mobility and communication barriers, Oliver reportedly remains determined to regain as much independence as possible, though medical professionals caution that full recovery is unlikely. Oliver reflects on the profound impact of his relationship with Victoria and the drastic changes it wrought in his life, emphasizing the importance of awareness and caution in relationships, particularly around matters of trust and financial security. And if you enjoyed this story and want more gripping, thought-provoking content, be sure to check out our other videos on true crime. Excavate, subscribe now and watch plenty of thrilling, real-life inspired stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. See you on the next video.